had to kill Phil's ego one time.
He had an ego?
This was Phil had a small one, but he had Jack Kemp on one time when he was running with Bob Dole. And I was on the phone while they were trying to get Jack. And they go, now, Jack, this is the Phil Valentine show. It's nationwide. And all of a sudden you hear Jack Kemp go, now, who is it?
Mm-hmm.
They said, Phil Valentine. Phil who? Valentine, like Valentine's Day. And where he's out of? Well, he's pretty much national. Okay. Later on in the interview, as he's talking to Phil, all of a sudden, when Phil asks him a question, Jack, of course, starts the answer. Well, Phil, it's like you say on your show. And he said, I listen to you daily. He said, love the show. I'm going, oh, my gosh.
Welcome to a podcast about music and entertainment. Before it all goes down the disposal, this is Circling the Drain.
Welcome back to Circling the Drain, the podcast that wants to keep the entertainment, the music world, keep it from going down the garbage disposal, as we say. My name is John E. Bozeman, but you know me better as Johnny B., along with Jay Harper, my co-host.
Hey, Johnny B.
How you doing, my brother?
Hey, always doing great when I'm with you.
And brother Chris.
Yes, I'm Chris. I'll be Brother Chris. That's fine.
Brother Chris.
I'll be Brother Chris / Jim.
Jim McCarthy.
No, man, you're just so used to having producers named Chris.
I am. Yeah. That's where it came from. Anyway.
I'll be Chris. Whatever you want me to be.
Yeah,
Brother Jim McCarthy here.
Dude, that's happened to me too, man.
I'm such an old man. Hey, Fred. Just call me Joe Biden.
That's good.
But anyway, welcome to Circling the Drain podcast, where we talk about everything entertainment, everything music. But today we wanted to talk about some of our favorite stories, and I know you guys will be interested in it too, because radio is a very interesting business.
We do that in lieu of the pay.
Yes, yes, we do.
Experiences.
And it's getting more interesting, but for totally different reasons.
Boy, that's the truth. It's become so corporate. It used to be. I remember the days in radio. It was not unlikely, like for myself. I'll talk about myself, where I might have a cigarette while I'm on the air, right, with all the equipment there.
Absolutely.
Have a cigarette, maybe a pizza over here.
Mm-hmm.
There might be a girl in the room, and she may have clothes or may not.
Right.
Those were the days. I mean, that was what radio was like back in those days. It was pretty wild.
It was as close to being a rock star as one could possibly get.
Without the money.
That's right.
And the glory.
And it was back when being a jock on the air was kind of like a dance, a ballet. I mean, you had all this different gear that you no longer use. You had turntables going.
Cart machines.
You had cart machines. And I know there are those, I will mention cart machines to folks, and you got the puzzled look.
Well, it's like saying 8-track.
Yeah,
right.
I mean, that's what people can relate to. It's kind of like a 1-track, 8-track.
Exactly.
It's what it looks. But anyway, you'd have several of those. You'd have a reel-to-reel perhaps going and keeping all of that in sync. And
it was such a talent.
And you had the console in front of you. Of course, today it's all slide pots, but back in the day it was
computers.
the round. So now everything is in a computer.
Yes.
And all you do is key the mic, and the computer does everything else. And in some respects, it's kind of cool, but
yes.
I do miss the dance, if you will.
And we also had the Q-Burn, too. Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
You'd be playing vinyl, and it had been played so much that at the front of it, you'd start the record, that would be... that would be fun. Get into the song.
Didn't it get to where you would hear those songs on other stations?
Yes.
And it didn't sound right because it didn't have the Q-Burn?
Exactly. I was going, where's the Q-Burn at, man?
Yeah, wait a minute.
It was very interesting, too. There was an artist, Deborah Allen. She's an artist here in Nashville, and she had a big hit called Baby I Lied.
1983.
Yes.
Got to number 4.
Yes, it did. And it crossed over to, see there, radio guy. But it also crossed over to pop, too. Yeah. And I took a chance on the record, and I got because we had to answer to Nashville. I was working in Birmingham at the time, and I had to answer to Nashville. And they were really on me. They said, "Why are you going with this record? She's unknown, really." And I said, "I'm telling you, this record's going to be a hit." Mm-hmm. And thank God it was, because otherwise I would have really been a hot water.
She was on RCA Records at the time. That certainly helped.
Well, she was gorgeous.
Oh, that too. And a fine songwriter. I mean,
and a great singer.
Right. She was married to Rafe Van Hoy at the time, who was also a fine songwriter.
Yes.
So, she had some street cred. Certainly from a songwriter standpoint.
From a musician standpoint, yes, she did. A lot of radio people didn't know who she was or didn't think she was going to go anywhere. But I did. And what really drove me crazy about that record was that at the end, as it's fading out, she hits this great high note. Mm-hmm. And I would not talk until she hit that high note. I mean, I would even crank up the volume because I thought, how stupid. Why did they not, leave that in there and then fade out after that? But anyway, that's radio for you.
Yeah. All those fun things. Hitting
I remember, Deborah Allen came to the station I was working at the time with her RCA rep. Jack Weston was the RCA guy at the time. I always wonder what happened to Jack, but he was a good dude. Anyway, they came. We did the lunch thing and all that, and she's out there again now. She just released new stuff.
Oh yeah,
and she's got a big show coming up in Franklin.
Tennessee, she does, which is right here in our backyard, so to speak. Right. Franklin Theater, I think.
Yeah, correct. So she's still out there doing her thing.
Yeah, she's really good. But I just remember stuff like that. I also remember, I don't know if you guys ever went through this or not, but I'm on the air. It was in Nashville, and I was doing the midday show. It was Steve Wariner had just come out, and I think he had a song. I think it was, I forget the song now. Mm-hmm. But anyway, I didn't know a lot about Steve Wariner. Mm. And all of a sudden I'm told by the music director, "Oh my God, you're supposed to do an interview with Steve Wariner." And I said, "Really?" I said, "When?" She goes, "Now." I know nothing about Steve Wariner. And she goes, "Well, we're just going to have to wing it." And I got to meet Steve after. It's very interesting because I've met more country artists after doing talk radio than I did music radio. And I met Steve and I said, "Man, and he didn't remember the interview, but I said, I always felt embarrassed because I said, I didn't know a lot about you. The only thing I knew was that he shared a birthday with Barbara Mandrell, which is Christmas Day.
Christmas Day. That's right. Christmas Day.
And so I went with that and started there and just let him kind of.
Yeah. But no, Steve's the kind of guy, you say, "Hey, how you doing?" And he'll talk for 30 minutes.
He was great.
Yeah. I mean, I first met him when I was working radio and he played a nightclub in town. And at the time, I mean, he was on RCA and he had some hits, Lonely Women Make Good Lovers and Midnight Fire, and which were all pretty good tunes. But didn't really know much about him either. But then realized when I saw him in concert for the first time that he could just pick the hell out of a guitar. He is just a fantastic guitarist. And I remember after she was standing at the bar and I went up and, introduced myself. "Yeah, I'm with so-and-so radio." Man, I didn't realize, God, what a great guitar player you are, blah, blah, blah. Well, it was a few years later when I worked for MCA, and he was on MCA at that time. Yeah. And he remembered me. Either that or he was real good BSer. I had mentioned, "Hey, man, I saw you at this bar and da-da-da," and he said he remembered me. But yeah, Steve got to be one of those guys that I kind of got to know a bit during the MCA Records days. And you're right. I mean, and what's so disgusting, I mean, Steve's like 70 now or so, and he still looks like he's 12.
Yeah, he does. He's
always been young looking,
Well, and you're right about his playing. It was very interesting because when I worked with Phil Valentine on talk radio, it was around Christmas, and I was playing Christmas bumpers. And I was playing one by Steve. And to me, and I said it on the air, I said, "Man, this hauntingly sounds like Chet Atkins, who had passed away by that time." Steve called into the show And he said, wow. He said, I was sitting in traffic. And he said, I really shuddered because when Johnny said that it reminded him of Chet Atkins, he said, when I played that song in the studio, I'm playing Chet's guitar on that tune.
Yeah.
And so that was pretty wild.
Yeah. I mean, Chet Atkins was a mentor of
he was.
of Warner's, and I think produced some of Steve's stuff when he was on RCA.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
He did. And you're talking about memory. One of the best people I've ever talked to, talk about a great memory, believe it or not, was Donald Trump Jr. He was calling in to do an interview with Phil. It wasn't his first, but it had been a couple of years. And I'm answering the hotline, and I get on it, and he said, Johnny B, how you doing?
That's cool.
And I went, man, how do you remember me? And he goes, I remember everything. He said, I remember what we talked about last time. And he told me, and I went, my gosh, this guy is phenomenal. So you talk about a memory, that dude, that was impressive. I've never met anybody like that, because I've heard a lot of BS with talk radio. In fact, I felt bad because I had to kill Phil's ego one time.
He had an ego?
This was Phil had a small one, but he had Jack Kemp on one time when he was running with Bob Dole. And I was on the phone while they were trying to get Jack, and this is how it went on the phone. Jack, they're talking to Jack, and they go, now, Jack, this is the Phil Valentine show. It's nationwide, and, this is when we were syndicated. All of a sudden, you hear Jack Kemp go, now, who is it?
Mm-hmm.
They said, Phil Valentine. Phil who? Valentine, like Valentine's Day. And where he's out of? Well, he's pretty much national. Okay. Later on in the interview, as he's talking to Phil, all of a sudden, when Phil asks him a question, Jack, of course, starts the answer. Well, Phil, it's like you say on your show. And he said, I listen to you daily. He said, love the show. I'm going, oh, my gosh.
Bullshit.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, man.
That happened to me with Alan Thicke.
Really?
Remember Alan Thicke?
I remember Alan Thicke.
Yeah.
America's Dad.
Yes.
So he wasn't doing an interview at the radio station. It was in Las Vegas, and he came in to record commercials for a timeshare because he was the guy they hired as the spokesperson. And there was a whole bunch of other actors, if you will, that came into the station and were trying to play like the cast. So they wanted us to set up our talk studio so they could all be around it and record the commercial. I'm like, no, production studio guys, this is how we work. And they were so prima donna. I mean, they were like, well, I'm not sure how we can really get into character. I'm like, dude, it's a commercial for a flippin' timeshare. And Alan Thicke is just like, guys, let's get, he's just up next to my mic, and he's like, let's just hammer it out. We'll get it taken care of. So anyway, we get it done. All big hullabaloo and everything. All the, like, I've never had to cater to people's egos, not his, but theirs. Like, nobody knows who you guys are, So they all leave. He had to come back and do some pickups. And I had only maybe worked with him for maybe 45 minutes during that day. So, he was coming in again maybe a month later, and I get a call from the downstairs, like, your guest is here. Okay, I'm going to go down and get him. And I, circle around, open the door, and I'm like, hey, Mr. Thicke. He's like, hey, Jim. I'm like, oh, wow. Okay.
Wow.
Right, good on you, man. You remembered me and a lot of
cool.
What a great guy.
See, I love people like that.
You gotta do. It restores your faith in humanity.
Now, see, I'm bad because I'm bad with names.
Yeah.
You don't say.
See, I think that's maybe why I lost my last gig because the new PD. When you've been up for a long time, it was one of those mornings when I didn't get enough sleep the night before.
Which is about every morning, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And Paul is the guy's name. Real nice.
Yes, he is.
Really nice guy. And I felt bad for him. He had to fire me because I don't think he really felt good about doing it. But anyway,
firing legends.
I see him one morning, and I think I called him Dave. Hey, Dave, how you doing? He went, Dave. I went, Paul, you gotta forgive me.
Speaking of missing someone's name, this is actually a fair story. So. I can't. I'm thinking of who the guy was. So he comes into the studio, and it was Colin Hay.
Oh yeah,
From work, Men at Work.
Men at Work, yeah.
And we were going to have him on another show that we were producing on the
He used
side.
to live here at one time.
I guess so.
Yeah,
I guess so. So he comes in, and I'm on the phone with my wife, and I'm like, "Hey, I got to let you go. We're about to do this podcast with the guest is here." She's like, "Oh, who is it?" I'm like, "Oh, it's Colin Ray." and he's sitting right across from me, and I'm going, "Oh," and I kind of look at him. He starts you see his shoulders moving, and I'm like, "Did I totally?" Oh my gosh, you're Colin Hay. Oh, I said, come on, man, honest mistake here. I mean, I knew kind of who you were. I know who. Oh my gosh, let me shut up. Let me get the shoe out of my mouth. My gosh. Yeah.
Oh man, it's tough. It just is. It just is. But yeah, there's been a lot of great radio stories. I think the funniest one I can remember involves my father. And kind of me too, in a roundabout way. Because at the time it was during my sinning days. There were a couple of us at the station that were imbibing. We smoked the devil's lettuce at the time. And one of us was kind of stupid when it came to it. He didn't use good common sense. But I was at family dinner one time, and it was a Sunday. And Dad had a habit on Sundays of not ever getting out of, he'd always be wearing the robe and his pajamas. And we're around the dinner table, and all of a sudden the phone rings. And it's a radio station. And the buddy of mine that's jockeying that day had the great idea that, man, nobody's here. I'll just smoke a joint while I'm on the air. So to light the joint, he uses a match.
Mm-hmm.
And the match, after he lit the joint, he throws the match in the waste paper basket, which is underneath the console.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
The match is not out. He thinks it is, but it's not. And probably in the shape he's in, he doesn't notice that it's smoldering. It's starting to smoke.
Mm-hmm.
The fire got so bad that it fried the wires on the board, knocked the station off the air.
Oh, fun.
And so we're all eating dinner, and Dad gets the news. And then he tells everybody what's happened, and the whole family's eyes look at me like I did it. And I'm thinking, I wasn't there. I was right here.
For once, it wasn't me.
But they even made a book. The program director, whose name was Don Keith, great guy. He has been really successful with books.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, one of his novels became a movie. And starred Gerard Butler.
Really?
But yeah, the guy. But he wrote a great book about radio called Wizard of the Wind. And in fact, I get a dedication amongst hundreds of other radio people.
Cool.
Which made me feel. In fact, my name was right next to Jerry House's. And
wow.
That made me feel really good.
That's a big deal, man.
But Don tells the story in there, kind of, and he said he never forgot the image of my father pulling up in the back lot and getting out of the car with his robe and pajamas on, running up to the station. And of course, that guy ended up getting fired.
Yeah, I would imagine so. I mean, how long did it take to get back on the air? That's a major
I
problem.
forget. It took a while.
Yeah.
It took a while. And
yeah, that was probably back in the days when you couldn't just shift everything over to a production studio and operate out of there.
Well, I think they may have.
Yeah.
They may have done that.
Yeah.
So,
but talking about the radio, so you go way back in radio when stations were mostly mom and pop owned.
Yes.
Before all of the corporate conglomerate stuff. And those people, like your father, you talked in another podcast about having personal relationships with Jimmy Dean and Roy Clark and all.
Oh, yeah.
Back then, those mom and pop owners, they had those relationships with with artists and stuff. They would stay over at their houses and this kind of thing. A guy that I worked for in Baton Rouge, he came from Mississippi, mom and pop guy who bought that station. He bought an AM when AM radio was big, but bought it like in the late 50s.
Yeah.
And that was they were the king of the world in radio. Then he put an FM on the air in 1969 that was, I think, the second country FM in the nation at the time, because that was new, kind of, the FM radio.
Right.
And to put a country station on it, most of the FM stations, were like beautiful, that's Andre Castellanets and, all that beautiful music stuff. But anyway, back in the 50s, he owned stations in Mississippi. And I think it was Elvis, stood him up or something for a concert that they were doing. So he consequently hated Elvis. And if you played Elvis on the station, you would get a big time reprimand because he hated Elvis, regardless of the fact that Elvis was Elvis.
Well, yeah.
But yeah, you couldn't play Elvis because he was still 25 years later, still pissed at Elvis because he stood him up at a concert or something.
See, I never understood that. When I lived in Wichita, there was a big station there. It was KFDI. It may still be a big country station.
Oh, yeah. I used to promote that station.
Mike Oatman was the owner, and he...
Oh, yes. I remember him.
He did... my dad hated him.
Yeah.
And Mike hated my dad. Because they were really... I mean, they were basically fighting the radio wars. But anyway, Mike Oatman really made me mad one day because it was when Waylon Jennings put out Are You Ready for the Country?
Mm-hmm.
And he's playing the song on the air, Are You Ready for the Country? And it had a line in it, which I thought, man, that's a great line. Said, talking to a preacher, said God was on his side. Talking to the pusher, they both were selling high.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, man, that's a great line. Right after it plays, all of a sudden you hear the record come off. Mike says, we're not playing that crap on the air. Breaks the record on the air. Said, I don't care if it is Waylon Jennings. We're not promoting that kind of crap on this radio station.
Well, there are a lot of stations that wouldn't play John Denver's Rocky Mountain High.
That's true.
Because they were taking that as some drug thing.
Well, it may have been.
Yeah,
John.
Kind of, up for interpretation, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds with the Beatles. Everybody
LSD.
LSD, when it was actually John Lennon's kid brought home this picture that he painted. So, yeah.
I just made that correlation. Okay, good. I can see that.
But you also, we were talking about meeting artists. I remember as I worked at KZ Country. It was in Nashville on Music Row. It's where Curb Records is now. And the studio that you broadcast out of looked directly into the newsroom, which they sometimes use as, they would do celebrity interviews in there. And my sister at the time, who was also working at the station, was doing a celebrity interview for some, I think, a syndicated radio show with the Judds. And Naomi and Winona were there, and Naomi was sitting right across from me where we could see each other. Now, she never really looked over at me, but I was watching her, and the whole time she and Winona had their sunglasses on, which I found kind of funny. I kept thinking, why are you wearing sunglasses inside? So I was wearing contacts at the time, so I had shades. I had some Ray-Bans. So I stuck my Ray-Bans on and did my show like that for a while, waiting on Naomi to... And finally she did. She looked over at me and started smiling. I could tell she was laughing. And they ended up coming into the studio, and she said, I had to come in and introduce myself. She said, you really had me laughing, putting your sunglasses on. I said, well, I'm just having
You're
fun.
making fun of me, aren't you?
Yeah, the first time I met her, I was working radio in Baton Rouge, and she and Winona, as the Judds, nobody really knew who they were just yet. I think they had just put out their first tune, but they were opening for Willie Nelson at a concert there, and I was emceeing the concert. But anyway, backstage, and I didn't really know who the Judds were either. Really, I'd kind of heard of them from my record rep with RCA, the Jack Weston. But Winona's riding a bicycle backstage in the halls.
Oh, wow.
Of the LSU Assembly Center is where the show was taking place. So she's riding a bicycle, and I see Winona sitting in the Naomi sitting in the dressing room by herself, no makeup on. And I was just struck by how beautiful she was.
Yeah. Very beautiful woman.
And I kind of stuck my head in there. Anyway, I sat and chatted with her. There was nobody else in there. Again, they're just starting out. So I guess the entourage wasn't, quite there yet.
Right.
But just had the nicest, warmest talk. Jim had mentioned, I believe.
I'll tell that story.
Yeah. While we were off air here, I guess you would call it, about his encounter with Naomi and how nice she was. But yeah, just so down to earth and friendly. And, but again, I was like, I know my jaw was dropping about how gorgeous she was, but not without a stitch of makeup on,
Yeah.
Natural beauty, man.
Yeah. But I'm guessing probably Winona was probably, she was like 18, 19 when they started, something like that. So
she's a pretty woman too.
She was just
They're
a
all
kid.
good
Oh
looking.
yeah, they're very pretty women. All of them.
So she was just a kid bouncing off the walls, riding the bicycle backstage.
Man, it's crazy.
Yeah.
So tell us about your.
So after my life in radio, I got into the car business. The funny thing about the car business and radio, whenever you tell people what you do, they're always fascinated. It's either a fascination with what you do or a hatred for what you do.
Yes.
I found that commonality with both those industries.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
you know what I hate about car sales? Yeah, okay. Yeah, I get it. But I was working at Mercedes-Benz in Cool Springs, and I had the office right next to the side of the building. So it was a beautiful spring day. We had the doors open, nice breeze coming through. And it wasn't uncommon for people to kind of jaunt in and with their pets or dogs or something like that on a leash, with consideration. So I'm sitting there at my desk, at my computer, looking, who else do I need to call? I really enjoyed that job. And I see out of my peripheral, I see a little dog walking in without a leash. And I'm going, are you freaking kidding me? Come on, man. And, following the dog was a woman, and I'm looking at her and I'm tracking her, and she stops right in front of my desk, and I'm going, gosh, you look so familiar. She about faces and just turns right towards me, and she goes, I'm looking for some trucks. Okay. Used, pre-owned, we got trucks. I mean, Mercedes doesn't make trucks per se. We make SUVs. Yes, SUVs. Okay, great. You know what? I could be happy to help you. And she comes walking over, extends her hand. She goes, I'm Ashley. That's who you are. Okay, now I know who you are. It's Ashley Judd.
Yeah.
And so we start talking, and in walks Naomi and her husband, whose name I can't remember.
Larry Strickland.
Larry Strickland.
Seems to be the theme of the show today. We found a car, took a test drive and everything. And out in the test drive, all four of us went. And Naomi was just all about me, just asking me, well, tell me about your family. Where are you from? What's your wife do? Tell me about your kids. How old are your kids? Where do they go to? Just like salesmanship 101.
Yes.
Like someone trained her, but I think it was just innate in her to just be curious about other people, which I think made her very endearing. And I think it was a natural trait.
Yes.
And boy, what an impression she made. And I'm like, I really appreciate you. Ashley was Naomi was amazing. Was absolutely amazing.
She was amazing.
She made you just love her.
I think that's
I mean?
one reason they became so big. It wasn't just Winona's talent, which was phenomenal. I mean, Winona's a great singer.
Mm-hmm.
But
you met Winona as well, right?
Yeah, I did.
She's nice as well. She's a
she
great
was
person.
nice.
Yeah.
She was nice. She was a little smart aleck, which was fine because I am too. But I remember somebody on the staff had put a penthouse It was a Penthouse subscription card on my console to be, Smart A. And I had forgotten about it being there. And when they came into the studio, of course, there it was. And Wynonna looks over and goes, "Oh, Penthouse." I went, yeah.
Yeah.
And
do you read it?
Yeah.
Because I read it for the articles.
Yeah, I just read.
Yeah.
I like the forum. But yeah, radio.
They're really huge articles.
Yes, big old articles. Yeah, and I post those articles.
I like getting to the bottom of a story. You know what I mean? But anyway,
we were talking earlier in another episode about deaths that affected people.
Yes,
and again,
Naomi Judd's was,
and again the circumstances that were indeed so heartbreaking.
Oh,
well,
gosh.
suicide is always. My mother was the same way. Suicide, if people really knew how it affects, I mean, you're not solving a problem. You're creating even more problems.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what's so sad about suicide.
Yeah,
it's such a waste.
The permanent solution to a temporary problem kind of thing. The Robin Williams thing.
Yeah.
But anyway.
What was the song? There was a country song back in 2005. It was kind of like I don't remember the artist, but it was called "How Do You Get That Lonely?" It was about suicide.
Yeah.
But great song.
Yeah.
It was a really good song, and I can't remember the artist. I'm sorry, guy. Names.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'm drawing a blank.
We're having a
on
tough
that.
time today.
Yeah. You had mentioned like the breaking the records before.
Yes.
And it reminded me of like once upon a time how radio had such power. It still does today to a certain extent.
Oh,
The record industry, the music business really does depend on spins, as it were. Even though there's definitely a diminishing audience and a fractured attention span and listenership. It reminded me of when I was in Vegas, actually shortly before I went there. I was really fascinated with it, and oddly enough, ended up working out there. But a buddy of mine was programming KXTE 107.5 Extreme Radio out in Las Vegas at the time in 2000. And I remember reading it in a trade papers. This had come out. And I think it even made mainstream media when it came out. Limp Bizkit was out promoting their latest album called The Chocolate Starfish and the Hot Dog Flavored Water. Metaphors.
Okay.
Apparently, they decided they had a 21-city tour in the U.S. and Canada and before they went off to Japan. So they decided to not play Vegas because they had an opportunity to play somewhere else for more money. So they basically flipped off Vegas.
Yeah.
When KXTE caught wind of it, and they basically banned them from the radio station because they weren't going to play Vegas. And Dave Wellington, who was the program director, Beef Wellington, we called him. Yeah, he made headlines, and like listeners were out, rolling the discs over with steamrollers and all sorts of stuff, and it was a big spectacle. It was amazing.
Wow.
Just the black eye those guys got. Because of that.
Yeah, like the Dixie Chicks.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. That was a biggie.
Yeah.
And they blamed radio, but it wasn't so much radio decided to do that. It was the radio audience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's
because
true.
I was working we worked for Clear Channel at the time. We were in talk radio, of course, with Phil. And I remember when that happened, they were getting flooded.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, anytime they played a Dixie Chicks song, the audience, I mean, they did not want it. So that's why a lot of those songs got pulled. It wasn't radio's decision just
Correct.
because of something she said. Mm-hmm. It was because of the audience backlash. I always said Natalie Maines would have been a lot better off, and people probably would have thought, it's a lot different. If she had done that in Texas somewhere, people would probably go, man, that took some guts.
Yeah.
But you did it overseas.
They did it overseas.
Bruce Springsteen just did it.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
It's stupid. Well, and the thing with her, that whole thing was she was trying to win the audience back, because the worst thing you can do to a performer is boo. Mm-hmm. And she said something about them being from Texas, as from what I understand at the concert. And the audience in England started booing her. And that's when she made that comment. And it was like, that was you didn't need to do that.
Yeah.
You did not need to do that. But she paid for it, and it's really a shame because the group was really good. I thought the Dixie Chicks put out some great music. It's same with I love Steve Earle. He's one of my favorite singer-songwriters, but sometimes that dude puts his...
Yeah, but he, again, knowing Steve, again, going back to my MCA Records days, he's one of the artists I got to know probably better than anyone.
And he's a likable guy.
Oh, Steve's a good dude.
Yeah, he really is.
He has very strong political leanings,
very socialist,
far left.
Yeah,
but that is never, that just hasn't been anything that's come up in our relationship,
Well, it should.
But in terms of his, his art, a brilliant songwriter, admittedly, he can be kind of an acquired taste as far as a performer goes.
Yes.
But, but you're right. I mean, Steve has said some things that I don't think, if he were trying to go mainstream country, then maybe some of his comments would be an issue for him. But that's never been Steve.
Well, no, and I don't think Steve really cares.
No.
I think Steve looks at it like, hey, you either like me or you don't.
Right.
And if you don't, and I don't agree with him.
I don't either.
But I like him.
A lot of issues. Sure.
I like his music. And, the only thing that I got tired of as far as is on stage stuff was I didn't mind the songs that, that he had, like The Revolution Starts Now, whatever, that he wrote against George W. Bush. That didn't bother me. What bothered me were the constant political talks that he would do on stage.
Yeah.
It was like, I didn't come to, I want to escape this.
He will get to rambling about that on stage. And, back again, when we were trying to break him at MCA, we had he had a little bit of baggage in terms of his music because Epic Sony tried to make him a rockabilly guy.
Yes. In fact, I was one of the first DJs to play him in this town.
And that, first of all, that wasn't Steve.
No,
it was all wrong. But,
right.
When he came over to MCA and the Guitar Town album.
Oh, what a brilliant record.
But boy, talk about a bear trying to get that on radio.
And that surprised me, though.
Well, I was, as I say, I think there was some baggage with that. Oh, that's that rockabilly guy.
Right.
And we don't play the rockabilly guy.
Well, I got to admit, too, when that record came out, because Steve had turned me off when I first met him, because that was when he was on CBS. He was doing the rockabilly stuff. And the program director didn't want to talk to him. And so he said, would you mind doing it? I said, no, I don't mind doing it, because I like meeting new artists anyway. And I really liked him at first. I mean, we were getting along. I think he was with John Lomax at the time.
It
was his manager.
Yep, I believe you're right.
And they were both real nice, and I really enjoyed talking to them. But Steve's demeanor changed when I said, well, what are you doing? What kind of music is this? And he's, because I didn't hear the record. And he goes, well, I'm doing rockabilly. Mm-hmm. And at the time I was, trying to be an artist too. And they told me that sounds rockabilly. And I said, well, it's interesting because that's what somebody said my record sounded like. Mm-hmm. And for some reason that turned him on. He got, all of a sudden it just changed. Mm. He was real standoffish and acted like he wanted to get out of there. And I thought, well, I'm sorry I said anything, So when my wife at the time went to go buy Guitar Town, I said, well, you're going on your own. I said, I'm not going in there. I don't want to be seen buying that. Because I remembered that.
Yeah, yeah.
But then when she brought it home, I was like, man, this record is phenomenal.
Yeah.
And I really fell in love with his music.
Well, Hillbilly Highway was the first single off that album. And it didn't, I don't know, I think it may have gotten to the 30s, maybe.
Yeah, it didn't go far.
Yeah.
Which is a shame. It's a great song.
But then, that fat Dwayne Eddy guitar, that I don't know if that was a Tony Brown idea who produced that album, but that was.
I think it was Richard Bennett.
Richard Bennett. Yeah. I mean, he's the one that was playing that guitar.
Yeah.
But I was working non-reporters at the time. Back then, well, I say non-reporters, stations that did not report to Billboard or R&R, which was Radio and Records, which is no longer around. But if you were an R&R...
Which meant essentially a radio station could pick its own playlist.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
So R&R and Billboard reporters, I was calling at the time Cashbox and Gavin Report stations and big stations that didn't report to anybody. And I was starting... The reporters at the time were just blowing him off. They were not playing Steve Earle.
Right.
But I started getting traction with those non-reporters, the Gavins, in the Rust Belt, in Ohio, in Pennsylvania, West Virginia. And finally, the big stations were telling their record rep, their MCA guy that was calling them, who was Bill Catino at that time, I'm getting calls for this Steve Earle guy. Who is he now? So that is what started to get the traction for Guitar Town.
Yeah.
And ultimately, that was a #1 album.
Great.
But boy, it took a lot of work. Yeah. A lot of work to get there.
Well, and plus you had people that worked at that label, unlike you, that were not behind him at all.
No.
That's a shame because
he was not a priority in a lot of people's minds.
See, to me, that record really, I never wanted to pick the guitar up again. I thought, boy, this guy is phenomenal. And the next record, Exit Zero, I really fell in love with. I was working at my father and I got involved in a small station. It happened to be in Fairview, Tennessee.
Mm.
And I didn't know at the time Steve lived there.
Yeah, that's right.
And so I really got into that record. And then he came out with Copperhead Road. And I remember I was the only one out of all of us there that liked it. Everybody else was, oh man, he's gone way too far now. And my father and I had a bet. I said, I bet you the album at least will go top 10 in the country charts. He said, you're on. And I said, if it wins, I want to play the album in its entirety on the station. Because I love the guy so much. And sure enough, it went to number 7. I went into the girl that was playing music and I said, I want you to play this album in its entirety. And she said, really? I said, yes.
Well, I have to tell you, my first experience in hearing Copperhead Road by Steve Earle, he was, and I don't know who did this or how it came about, but he was asked, I guess, to perform at a meeting, reception, party, whatever it was, for Fifth Third Bank. Downtown Nashville.
Oh, what? Perfect.
Fifth Third Bank, downtown Nashville.
Uh-huh.
I went with him to that. I helped him. I mean, it was just him and his guitar.
Yeah.
And nobody really knew,
right.
Who the heck he was. But yeah, here he is playing for all these bankers at this, kind of hoity-toity. The interest rates are up 3.5%,
and he's
standing
nothing
around
like that.
with their cocktail glasses and stuff. Well, Steve's playing his stuff and nobody's really paying all that much attention to him, quite frankly. But he mentions, well, here's a new tune that I've not really played for anybody in public, but since ain't nobody paying any attention anyway, what the hell? So he pulls out his mandolin.
Yes.
And starts playing that intro to Copperhead Road.
Yes.
And he is just really starting to you could tell he was kind of pissed anyway.
Yeah.
So he was really letting out his angst and kind of disgust for all of these capitalists.
Well, and plus the way he played a mandolin, it wasn't like you hear with the real gentle.
No.
He plays it more percussive. I mean, it was like, yeah.
So he is just really starting to get going. And of course, he wears those bandanas on his wrist.
Yes.
And the bandanas were already kind of sweaty. So there's just like sweat and spit flying everywhere. And he's just, well, my name's John Lee Petty, just really getting it going. Yeah. And finally, though, those capitalist bankers finally stopped and just stood there and took notice of the song. And I thought it was such a great song. And of course it is. I mean, the story that tells.
Oh, I remember.
Just brilliant.
Well, the first time I heard it was it was at Douglas Corner when it was still here.
Yeah.
And Steve was just by himself. He was doing like an acoustic show. And all of a sudden he brings out this kick drum and his mandolin and starts playing this song. And I am mesmerized. I'm thinking, man, this is a great song. And then the next time I hear it, he's doing a show at War Memorial Auditorium with Roseanne Cash and Rodney Crowell. And Steve was the opener. And that was a big mistake, I thought, because as much as I loved Rodney Crowell and Roseanne Cash, Steve blew them both off the stage.
Yeah.
And he did Copperhead Road that night. And it had not come out yet. And it had the full band this time. My gosh, the way that place came alive with that song. And I thought that song's going to be huge.
Well, after Steve did it for those bankers, he actually got applause,
It's a great song.
People just kind of stopped and like, what's this guy doing?
He got their attention.
Oh, yeah.
He did.
It was a cool moment.
Well, I'll tell one more Steve Earle story because we don't want to make this the Steve Earle hour. But Steve was on Phil's show one time, Phil Valentine. Now, of course, they're politically just opposite,
diametrically opposed,
except for one area. Phil was not for the death penalty, and that's what Steve was doing. He was doing a concert that was an anti-death penalty concert. And I asked Phil if he would like to have him on. He said, "Well, you like his music. I kind of dig his music." He said, "Yeah." He said, "Let's have him on." So Steve gets to the station early. And I see him out in the lobby, so I decided to go out and talk to him. And we had a great talk. We talked country music. We talked all kinds of stuff. And I thought, well, this is going to be a great interview. And I said, so I told Steve, I said, well, I got to get back in, get ready for the show. But I said, even though you and Phil are politically opposed, I said, you do have a common theme with this. I said, he believes as you do, not quite like you do. But he's not for the death penalty either. And he goes, oh, I know he's going to ambush me. I said, no, man, he's going to be good to you. I said, he doesn't ambush anybody. And that interview started a real contention between Phil Valentine and Steve Earle. In fact, Phil is in this movie that this guy did on Steve Earle called Just an American Boy. And they're talking about it's all about when he had that song out, John Walker's Blues. And there's a clip of Phil on Fox News going, it's the worst song I've ever heard. But when Steve went into the interview, he was very contentious with Phil and wasn't very nice.
Right.
And Phil was being really nice. And after that interview, Phil said, what a butthole. He said, I'll never be nice to him again, which is sad because Steve's really a good guy.
Yeah, he is.
And Phil was too. It's a shame they couldn't find a common ground, which there was, So that's where I got to tell you a great Phil Valentine story since we're telling radio stories here. But Phil, when we started on WLAC, was notorious for coming in just in time.
Yeah, a lot of guys like that.
Well, he usually would be coming in as the theme music was playing. This is how it usually went. Everything, the whole news part was over. The weather was over. All of a sudden, it's pow, dun, dun. The Eddie Money song that he used. I think Another Day in LA, I think was the name of the song. But anyway, the song's going, there's no Phil. All of a sudden, in comes Phil Valentine. He puts the briefcase down, pops it open, gets his earphones out, waves to me. How you doing? The program director is going out of his mind, cussing me out. Where is he? Where is he? Puts the earphones on. Boom, there he is. And there's only one time, and I think this was the end of the days when he would cut it so close. There was one day that traffic was really bad and he didn't make it in on time. And he called me on the phone and did part of the open on the phone. Very cool.
That's
very
great.
Cool.
Those things happen in radio.
Yeah, they do.
goodness.
Radio is I miss the days of the old, when you were talking about like mom and pops.
Yeah.
That was fun. I mean, radio was a blast.
the family or the person or whatever that owned the place was in the corner office.
Oh, yeah. You saw
know?
them every day.
Yeah. Not like now when you really don't know who the hell owns this. I don't really know.
Well, it's like, even the general managers. The general manager of the last radio station I worked at, I probably only saw her. I can count on my hand.
Yeah.
Probably how many times.
That's true as well.
I've seen her in the station,
Well, back then those stations had staffs,
Yes.
There were, there was somebody that wrote the copy for the commercials. There was, 2 or 3 people that were in the production department and the news department. Now there's nobody there.
Well, there was camaraderie. I mean, I remember we used to, when I worked at radio station here in Nashville, it was in Madison. It used to be Weno. It turned into WJRB.
WENO.
But we would go out and we'd go out drinking together, whatever, or have dinner together. It's far different now.
Yeah.
It's more like now, like in the last radio station I was in, they sales was downstairs, programming was upstairs.
Yep, you never see anybody.
No.
Well,
that's probably a good thing.
Well, I'll admit, I'm with a station here in town now, and I've been there 3 years, and I see people in the hall, and it's kind of like, "Hi, how you doing?" But I have no idea who these people are. And I know they're sales or there's something. I don't know. Maybe it's incumbent upon me to go, "Hi, I'm Jay," and maybe
are the sales staff still like staffed to the fullest extent, or are they dwindling too?
That's a good question.
That is a good question.
I don't really know. I do know that the thing about radio now is, and we've seen the sales, the income results for iHeart and Cumulus just came out here in the last week or so.
Mm-hmm.
And, radio revenue is down, but digital revenue is up.
The podcasts are up.
Yep.
Right.
As these stations go to more of the digital footprint.
Something they should have done 15 years ago, but whatever.
Yeah. So, these conglomerates, I mean, they're catching on and realizing that they're going to have to diversify their platforms and not just rely on the transmitter.
Well, what's sad to me, though, in a way, is that I miss the old days of radio when it was theater of the mind. Because I think a lot of, I was telling somebody in radio this, may have been you, Jay, where I said, I know who it was. It was the producer of Michael Del Giorno's show.
Mm-hmm.
And
is his name Jim?
maybe Chris.
It may be Chris.
No,
Chris.
No, but his name is Jeff. Great talent, great radio talent, actually. But I was telling Jeff, I said, if the Phil Valentine show had come around now, I said, I doubt we'd be able to do Dancing in the Booth or, the other things like Snowflake or any of the other things. Because Phil was such a genius at theater of the mind. And that's what I really miss about radio today is the theater of the mind stuff, because now you're on camera and it's a lot different. I mean, it's changed. And I'm not saying it's changed for the worse. It's just for me, I miss that theater of the mind when I didn't know I didn't know what the guy looked like. I didn't know what the girl looked like.
Mhm.
You know, there were times when you'd hear a girl on the radio and you'd think, wow, I bet she's hot. And then you'd, well, that's about anybody in radio. We all had faces for radio.
I was
you
about
know?
to say, hey, we're going to be live over here at the Woolworth. Come meet us.
What was like a guy? I met a guy at a function we had at WTN. It was for a Dave Ramsey when Dave was on there, and this guy comes up to me and he goes, "You're Johnny B?" And I went, "Yes, sir, I am." He goes, "You're not what I expected." And I said, "Well, you're not what I expected either." And he got mad. I was like, "Well, you started it."
I'm telling you, radio people that are fascinated or something they don't like about you.
Or there was a woman one time that came up to me. It was at a UT thing that WLAC was doing. And this woman comes up to me and asks if it was me. And I said, yes. She goes, "Are you, Johnny? I pictured you being fat like Rush Limbaugh." I said, "Well, I'm working on it."
I remember we had Dr. Laura on our station in Vegas. And all I ever saw of her were the pictures we had on the walls and stuff like that. So it was the first time I ever.
Oh, I thought those were other
her.
pictures that came out.
Well, maybe at that point. But she came into the station to do her show one time, and she was walking down the hall, and it was like, oh my, wow. The Photoshop wasn't invented yet. Like, that's a lot of Vaseline on the lens. Oof. I mean, like a leather handbag.
Yeah.
I mean, my good. And she was cordial. She was nice. And it's funny about these people when you come across them, especially like talk show hosts.
Yes.
Phil, I think, was always on. You know, from what I know of him, he was always kind of like, you know, you knew more intimately. But a lot of these people I met, you know, I worked with Sean Hannity and Dr. Laura. Tom Likas came in one time and did a show. Off the air, they're completely different.
Well, I always heard that about Rush.
Yeah, Howard, the same thing.
Yeah.
He's a very shy, introverted guy and, you know, very appreciative of people. But once that mic turns on, he becomes the character.
Yeah, the acerbic, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the way Rush was, too. I asked people that met Rush what he was like off, and they said, man, very shy guy.
Yeah.
Very kind of withdrawn. I'm really disappointed in Howard Stern. I used to really like Howard.
We were talking about deaths in the previous episode, and we forgot to mention his career.
Yeah, it's well, and what really turned me against him was when Phil died of COVID. There were two other talk show hosts died about the same time, and Howard Stern was asked about it, and his reply was good. And I thought,
yeah, what a horrible.
Yeah. I thought you were better than that. And ever since then, and then when he went real woke, I just thought.
He became the exact kind of person that he used to make fun of.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I understand too, I think they said ever since he married his new wife.
He became bougie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and they said he's also, a lot of his workers have said, the people that work with him have said that he really relishes being fawned over by celebrities. He wants to be invited to celebrity parties.
That's what he always wanted.
And that's what he's playing to, basically.
Totally.
And when you do that, it's over. I mean, you may as well, if you're not playing to that audience in front of you.
Yeah. Well, you know, apparently he and Donald Trump were big buddies at one time.
They were.
And Trump was on his show a lot. And
well, and even David Letterman used to have Trump on all the time.
Well, you know, you stick your flag in the soil, man, and you draw a line in the sand, you're going to polarize people.
Well, and it's like we were talking about Steve Earle, Dixie Chicks, folks like that. You know, if you get political, it's like I had an artist tell me, I won't say who it was, but they were working one of these cruise ships. And they said there was an artist that went on stage and started blasting Barack Obama, who was the president at the time. And they said the audience walked out on them. So the next night, another artist came on and was knocking Donald Trump, and said the audience once again walked out. You're either going to, if you step into the political fray, if you're a recording artist, I think you're going to lose half your audience.
Well, you look at what Al Dean did with Try That in a Small Town. He's unapologetic about it, even to the point where it spurred off a podcast, which is the one I produce.
Yes.
What drew me to that was that I know those guys. I know, Kurt and Tully through my relationship with Rich. But the other two guys, Kalo and Neil, who are their other songwriters, are also legendary songwriters here in town. But yeah, man, I said, I am really intrigued by the fact that you guys are doing this because it's a risk. This is a very left-leaning town. And it
is. Well, especially now the music business. And in fact, when you were on the radio, you had an artist on that was talking about how Music Row has changed.
Yeah,
it's not
Daryl Worley.
Yeah, it's not like Daryl Worley's a great guy.
Yeah.
With a podcast, by the way.
Yeah. Yes, he does.
Yes, he does.
Yeah.
We're going to try to get him on ours.
Yeah, I think we can get it.
I think so too. But I think I don't mind a song. Like I was talking about Steve, I didn't mind hearing songs in concert that I could tell were left leaning, but it's the when you start when you start making speeches, political speeches on stage, and you're an artist, it's done. I mean,
well, you go back to the Merle Haggard days.
Yes.
During the Vietnam War, Fight Inside of Me. And some of these that were deemed to be
Okie from Muskogee,
deemed to be kind of almost right wing conservative. But that's not who Haggard was, though.
No, he was not.
He was more left-leaning.
Yeah, he was.
In terms of his political stance.
Yeah.
But he certainly had, kind of made, planted his flag in the sand, if you will, on the kind of conservative side.
Well, even Johnny Cash, a lot of people thought Johnny Cash was conservative. He wasn't.
Yeah.
Really?
He was very, very... In fact, he was very Al Gore. He wanted Al Gore to. He was.
Oh,
yeah.
I had no idea.
But you can be patriotic.
Yes.
Without being conservative.
Right.
I mean, the Johnny Cash with the rugged old flag.
Yeah, ragged old flag.
Ragged old flag.
Yeah.
And that is just a masterpiece.
Well, if you've ever seen I think you can see it on Tubi maybe. But it's Highwaymen in Concert, and Johnny Cash does Ragged Old Flag, and he said, "I'm proud to be from a country that will allow somebody to burn the flag." He said that, and the audience really didn't do much of that. But he says, "I'm also proud to be from a country that if you burn my flag, I've got the right to shoot you."
That's right there, John.
But yeah, radio, back to radio, it's changed a lot. It had to.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, as you pointed out, they were late they were very late.
They're laggards. I mean, it's, and it's, to be fair, you have to obviously nurture your revenue stream where it comes from and make sure that's happening. But, it was kind of a catch-22, to kind of be a very, devil's advocate approach to this is we get it. Where your bills are being paid,
right?
But to kind of all of a sudden try and pivot. But I mean, I don't think anybody could really see how fast this pivoted. And I was actually going to say maybe for another episode, do a topic on a radio guy's perspective on podcasters.
Yes,
that'd be a good topic.
It would be.
But basically, it's just amazing to me that podcasting kind of did come up right around 07, 08. And I think podcasting is the big thorn in the side of radio right now. It certainly has been, with all the different digital offerings. In 07, 08, it kind of, it crested and then went away, but it came back with a force in like 2014, 2015.
It did. And, I totally, like in my situation, and I think I've even told you this the time you interviewed me on your podcast.
Yeah.
I totally got why I was let go.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I didn't take it as personally as some people did. I understand there are still some audience members that are.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Which I appreciate. Don't get me wrong. I appreciate that loyalty.
Mm-hmm.
But I totally got because I think they were, Phil is gone. The station's going to have to change to stay alive. And I totally got why they did what they did. because they have to change. You have to change or you're not going to stay alive. And I totally got it. Didn't take it personally. The only thing I took personally was the way they did it.
Yeah.
And that's
kind of,
I would have rather had a face-to-face.
Yeah. You deserve that.
Rather than that's the only thing I had against the whole firing was the doing it by computer while I'm at home. When I was just there, just like an hour or two before, where you could have called me into an office and said goodbye. And maybe they were afraid. Maybe I have an image of, he might, he'll get violent.
Oh yeah, that's you.
That's me. But I wish it had been done that way. But I have to say though, the program director, Paul, fantastic about it. I mean, he was a gentleman and even called me later.
Yeah, just check on you,
right? He did. He said, I just want to make sure you're all right. I said, man, I'm cool. And he said, well, be sure to sign your, I said, signed and done. He said, already? I said, yes, it's done.
Yeah. But John, as you've told me, that whole thing going down, certainly, while you don't take it personally, it still hurts. After investing a couple of decades in your passion, but you've told me that you've actually felt lighter though, that it was a relief in one respect.
Well, it was. I remember the day it happened. My wife, we were on the front porch and we were talking about it, and she's sitting there bawling. She's crying, and she goes, "Why are you not more upset?" And I said, because I'm free.
Yeah.
Now I can kind of do some things I've wanted to do. I'm not, and to be honest, as much as I love radio, I'm not a big fan of the corporations that own them. That's nothing against those corporations, but it's just not the radio that I grew to love.
Right.
That's not the radio that I love. And I have to tell you, and I thank you for this, is that that's why I love this. I love podcasting, Jim, because you're right. It's the future.
You're still needed, man.
And the thing is, Phil Valentine, before he died, I think Phil was going to leave radio. I really do. I think he had his fill of it, and he had talked to me. He wanted to start a podcast network of his own, and I think he said he wanted me to do one on music. He said, I think you'd be great at that. He said, that's your future. And I think he wanted to do one for Pamela Furr. He really loved her and believed in her. And so I think that's the route he was going anyway. And so this just seemed a logical way to go. And I appreciate you for inspiring me to do this.
Well, you're very welcome. It's just like when you believe in what somebody's doing. That's the thing, is that I think a lot of people see or hear what I say, they think I'm throwing shade on radio. I'm not.
No.
I'm throwing shade on the ownership groups, the people that didn't pivot hard enough. It's like, you're supposed to be a creative industry. Be creative.
Yes, that's what's missing today.
And
excuse me,
you're getting your butt kicked by people that are in rooms like this.
Yes.
That are building massive audiences. Joe Rogan's audience is huge.
And who would have thought that?
Right.
Who would have thought that?
But he started in 2007.
Yeah, he did.
He started podcasting in 2007.
Yeah, he got in there early. Well, I mean, I just saw where, Taylor Swift on the podcast.
New Heights.
What was it? 10 million?
Yep.
10 million viewers on the podcast with the Kelsey folks. And
that's the New Heights podcast. Yeah.
So, and of course, announcing her new album, which is going crazy. So, she's not out there promoting her album on radio.
No.
She promotes it on a 10 million viewed podcast.
Yep. Isn't that crazy?
Is that, of course, that's another level, but nonetheless, it does show you the power.
Yeah, how things are changing.
All right.
And I think I'll make a prediction. A lot of the artists, especially, there's if you're an A-list country artist, it's about a 20-year run, right?
Right.
Some people are the exception to the rule, but I will make a prediction that a lot of these artists that, I've kind of done the thing. John Rich has done the thing. Right. He's toured. He's been an artist and everything. He's more of a pontificator now, political commentator. They're going to start turning towards podcasting. I think you see a lot
think
more
you're right.
artist-driven podcasts. And when that happens, it'syourshow.co is the place to go.
Well, I got to hand it to Dan Mandis and Chris Hand at the station I used to work at, WTN. They've got a great podcast.
Right. And Matt Murphy.
And Matt Murphy.
And Cam Smith. Are,
yes.
So, I mean, so that's what's happening with your radio personalities now, is that they have their own podcast.
So we're not broadcasters anymore. We're podcasters. And that's why we want you to return to Circling the Drain, because it'll be back. And we'll have a great show lined up for you with Jay Harper and, of course, old Chris here.
Me, Chris.
Jim McCarthy. And
Chris McCarthy.
Jimmy Z. No, Johnny B. We appreciate you joining us on Circling the Drain.